In this video, we're going to be taking a look at Microsoft's response to the New Zealand Commerce Commission's Statement of Issues. This was on 4th of July, published on the website on the 5th of July. Response to New Zealand Commerce Commission Statement of Issues dated 20th June 2023. So we're just going to take a look through and see what Microsoft has to say and give some of our own thoughts and opinions. So the part that I'm most interested in is the cloud gaming aspect and what Microsoft has to say in regards to cloud gaming. So they talk about the theory of console foreclosure, and they believe that it won't have any effect. There's no evidence for the console foreclosure in New Zealand. And then part 4, no credible possibility of cloud gaming foreclosure in New Zealand. So let's have a look at what they say. Cloud game streaming is not a separate market. It is a feature that provides an alternative means for gamers to access content in the broader game distribution market. The merged entity will not have a substantial degree of market power in the upstream gaming publishing market and therefore will not have any ability to foreclose. In the counterfactual, Activision Blizzard would not make its game content available to cloud gaming providers. In the factual, the merged entity would not have any incentive to withhold content from other cloud gaming providers, given its driver to make games available across platforms and the European Commission commitments and contracts. There is no evidence that any hypothetical withholding of Activision Blizzard content would materially alter consumers' cloud gaming choices. There is no evidence that any hypothetical withholding of Activision Blizzard content would have a substantial impact on the ongoing competitiveness of other cloud gaming providers, including as there is no evidence of any material network effects in cloud gaming, nor any evidence of unique advantages to Microsoft or barriers to entry. There is no evidence that any hypothetical withholding of Activision Blizzard would result in a substantial lessening of competition in any properly defined market. So this is what they say about cloud game streaming. They say it's not a separate market. They say it's a feature that provides an alternative means for gamers to access content in the broader game distribution market. I'd like to comment on this. I think what Microsoft is saying here, it's not really relevant to how cloud gaming operates in the wider context of cloud gaming. It does apply to Xbox cloud gaming, because in this case, in Xbox cloud gaming, it is a feature because it's part of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate at the moment. So then you could argue that it's a feature, it's part of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, it's not the main thing, it's not a standalone thing. The main thing of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate is access to the games which you can download natively, and that is access to the games on the Xbox and on the PC. And then Game Pass Ultimate also includes both PC, Xbox Game Pass, as well as Xbox Live Gold, as well as some Ubisoft games, and also includes some perks. And then on top of all of that includes cloud gaming. So cloud gaming is just part of that subscription. So when we're talking about Xbox cloud gaming, then yeah, it's a feature because it is not the main standalone element. And gamers will try before they download with Xbox cloud gaming. And they will also switch between native and cloud gaming as they see fit. But the interesting part here is, why do players switch back and forth, and why do they use Xbox cloud gaming to try before they download? Why don't they use it as the primary means of accessing the game? And why is it only just a try before downloading thing? In my opinion, I think the reason why is because just Xbox cloud gaming is just not good enough right now to be used as the primary means of playing the game. It doesn't look as good as native doesn't look anywhere near as good as native because the bitrate Microsoft is using is just so low right now. So you have that issue that the quality of the image, the graphics quality, and the stability of the image is not good enough. There's too much artifacting and there's too much blurriness. And then also the other potential reason could be latency, as to why people would rather download a game natively onto their console and play it that way. But then again, that is going to change with time and progress with internet infrastructure. So what Microsoft is saying is only correct to current day state of cloud gaming. And not only that, but it's also only applicable to Xbox cloud gaming. It's not applicable to other cloud gaming services, because in those services it is used as the primary way of accessing games and playing games. It's not a feature in those cases. It's only a feature here because players don't think it's good enough yet, and it's not good enough because Microsoft hasn't really taken the steps to make it good enough to use as a native way of playing games, and certainly not on PC, where, remember, cloud gaming runs on Xbox Series X's, custom blades designed specifically for the Xbox cloud gaming. But what this means is you can't play the PC version of the games, which means you have to use a controller and you cannot use a mouse and keyboard. So that's another reason why on PC you would rather just download the game natively rather than using Xbox cloud gaming. So this is my commentary regarding switching and try before you download, because those are Microsoft's main arguments as to why cloud gaming is not a market and is not a entity on its own, is not an element on its own that can be used standalone. So that's really how I would address those things. They say it's not a separate market, but this is completely contradictory to Microsoft's own behavior as to how they see Xbox cloud gaming, and Nvidia and Boosteroid. Their own emails talk about how they view GeForce Now and Boosteroid, how they viewed those services was as a direct competitor to Xbox cloud gaming. So that's why it is a separate market, because you have all of these new emerging corporations that are trying to build cloud gaming as a way to play games. Not only that, but Microsoft themselves were previously trying to build the Xbox Keystone, as it was called, a new console that is purely cloud gaming rather than native playing. It would have run purely using cloud gaming. So Microsoft themselves saw the opportunity of cloud gaming as a standalone method of playing games, as a separate market, and they could have offered Xbox cloud gaming as a separate subscription to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. They could offer that as a lower price maybe, and that would automatically make it a separate market. It would not be a feature in that case, and Microsoft could at any point decide simply to do that, and if they decided to do that, then it would be a separate market. It would be a standalone market, and it's not a feature. It provides an alternative means for gamers to access content, is what they say. Now, this is important because this isn't necessarily true. It doesn't necessarily provide an alternative means. For some gamers, yes, who already own hardware that is capable of playing high-end games, But for many people who don't have access to any system already, it's their primary way. It's not an alternative way, it's their primary way to access content in the broader game distribution market. So this again is not correct. This is only correct for Xbox players, this whole statement. It's not correct for cloud gaming as a whole. It's not correct for many GeForce Now players. It's not correct for many Boosteroid players. And it's certainly not correct for the new generation that will be coming of new gamers who have no access to a console already or a high-end gaming PC already. Their only way of accessing games will be through cloud gaming. So that's why it's a separate market. That's why it's not an alternative means. It's a primary means, and it's a standalone feature. And all of this statement is only applicable to Xbox in the current day market, because Microsoft could at any time decide simply to offer a standalone cloud gaming service product. Let's have a look at what they say on page 33. This is 4a, point 4a. 4b is will not have a substantial degree of market power. So we'll have a look at that. But let's look at page 33. This is where they expand on the statement. Let's have a read of this actually. This is page 7, page 8. Okay, they say Activision Blizzard content is not must-have. Activision Blizzard content is not a must-have input for cloud gaming providers. This is page 8. First, other cloud gaming providers compete successfully without Activision Blizzard content. Consider, for example, GeForce Now, which is estimated to be the largest cloud gaming provider in the world. It has successfully competed without offering any Activision Blizzard content through its service. Now, this paragraph is very flawed reasoning, because yeah, GeForce Now has been successful to an extent, but it would be massively more successful if it did have access to Overwatch and Call of Duty and all of the other games. If I type in Overwatch now, nothing. Nothing. If I type in Diablo, nothing. Now can you imagine if those games were on the service? It's saying 1,641 games are on GeForce Now. But that doesn't matter when most of them are not very popular games, right? If I look through the library, all games, many of these games are just games that nobody's heard of, nobody cares about. So what Microsoft is saying is completely untrue. The fact that they think that if you were to add Activision Blizzard content onto GeForce Now, it wouldn't be massively more successful is obviously very flawed logic, because it would be. We're talking about some of the most popular games in the industry. If you go into Twitch now, you can see Overwatch is one of the highest played games. If I see on PlayStation as well, PlayStation most played games, Overwatch, Call of Duty, those are both very highly played games. If I were to try that, PlayStation most played games. Let's Google for this. This is the last 30 days top 100. Fortnite, number 1. GTA, number 2. EA Sports, number 3. Diablo 4, number 4. So this is Activision Blizzard, Diablo 4. This is the 4th most played game on PlayStation. And they're saying that this content wouldn't have much of an impact it wouldn't be a must-have, but it is. It's clearly a must-have. Look how highly played. These are the most popular games in the industry. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, number 8. Overwatch 2, number 12. These are the most played games on PlayStation. And two of the top 10 most played games are occupied by Activision Blizzard games. And then number 12, we have Overwatch 2. So these are clearly going to have a big impact on the catalog, on the popularity of a cloud gaming provider, obviously. If we look on Xbox most played games, number 1, Fortnite, number 2, Call of Duty. This is number 2 on Xbox. We're saying this is not must-have content? Like, how? How is this not must-have when it's one of the most played games on Xbox? And then you go down, you find Overwatch 1 and 2, number 14. So again, very popular game. And this is also shown in the official website. Number 2, you have Call of Duty. And you have Overwatch, number 14. Diablo, number 12. These are clearly very, very popular games. And they would have a massive effect on how successful a cloud gaming provider would be. In fact, this is why Boosteroid is so popular right now. It's because they do give you access to Overwatch and Diablo and Call of Duty. It's why Boosteroid was massively helped to grow thanks to that. And so let's have a read through of this. Second, Call of Duty accounts for limited usage in New Zealand on PC. Maybe this is correct on PC. This might be true in New Zealand. I don't know how true this is globally though. The entire Call of Duty franchise was estimated to account for just redacted of 2022 PC game time in New Zealand compared to Roblox and Fortnite. So one thing to remember is Call of Duty is quite a high-end game. It's a very demanding game. So this isn't relevant. If that's having a big effect on how people run it on PC, remember PC players, not many people have access to a very high-end gaming PC. And in New Zealand, I don't know how the prices are there. It might be part of the factor as to why. But then when you have it on cloud gaming services, then you don't need to account for that because the cloud gaming provider will take care of the hardware requirements. So you don't need to have high-end gaming hardware because they will already be on the server remotely in the remote location. And that's what GeForce Now stands to benefit from. But not just GeForce Now, obviously many other cloud gaming providers. We know there's a 10-year contract with GeForce Now, so this isn't a problem. But what about all of the other ones like Amazon Luna and a potential Stadia revival from Google and PlayStation Plus Premium Cloud Streaming, or PlayStation Now as it was called? None of those, to my knowledge, have any 10-year contracts. And why? Why do they not have those? Well, yeah, it was offered to PlayStation for Call of Duty, but we don't know about the other games like Overwatch and Diablo, which are both, again, very popular games. Call of Duty accounts for limited usage, okay, compared to Fortnite. And again, input foreclosure concerns have never been found to arise from such a competitive upstream market. There could be no ability to foreclose, no incentive to withhold Activision Blizzard content. Microsoft is incentivized to distribute Activision Blizzard content as widely as possible and would have no incentive to foreclose cloud gaming providers. And to address this, there is an incentive because, remember, cloud gaming right now is at its very earliest stage. It's in the nascent stage, as it's called. Nascent market means it's very early on and it's not reached its potential growth. So right now is the time that Microsoft can basically do what they want with cloud gaming, because let's say they withhold all the popular games to their own service, then what happens is the entire cloud gaming market is shifted in favor of Microsoft, because it's not like the games already exist on other cloud gaming platforms. So for that reason, Microsoft already starts with that advantage, as cloud gaming is in its nascency. And then as it evolves, say 10 years from now, Microsoft will have the massively favorable market share because it's much more popular. If they had exclusive access to these games, by that time it's going to be way more popular. It's not like with PlayStation where they do have an incentive, they do have no incentive to withhold the content, because if they were to do that in the console market, they would lose a lot of profit from not having the games on PlayStation, where there is already an existing massive market for these games, and they would stand to lose a lot of money from doing that. So obviously that would not be in their interest. So I agree with the Microsoft response that they do not have the incentive to foreclose in the console market. But that's not true of the cloud gaming market, because remember, cloud gaming is still in the nascency. So right now is when they can get the biggest advantage by withholding content from other providers, by limiting to themselves. And the CMA already addressed this as well. CMA has addressed this in their response to Microsoft. It's basically everything Microsoft is saying has already been addressed. These aren't good arguments that we're seeing from Microsoft. The EC commitments and contract comprehensively address any hypothetical vertical foreclosure concerns. Microsoft's contracts with Nvidia, Ubitus, and Boosteroid, the contracts and the undertakings given to the AC, the European Commission commitments, are legally enforceable, including by the EC, and apply globally, including in New Zealand. Microsoft faces strong incentives to comply with its commitments. The EC commitments and contracts are subject to carefully monitoring by an independent monitoring trustee, and any violations could result in significant penalties for breach, which could theoretically run in the billions of dollars. As such, they have even more certainty, and come with more built-in independent enforcement and oversight than the usual commercial contracts the NZCC has accepted as part of the factual, including in May in Connecture 2 Degrees. Microsoft's adherence to the contracts and EC commitments would also be highly visible to gamers and to the contractual counterparties, the monitoring trustee and the EC. Therefore, the NZCC should consider the EC commitments and contracts as part of a pragmatic and commercial assessment of what is likely to occur in the future, as they comprehensively address any hypothetical vertical foreclosure concerns. And the EC found the transaction enhanced competition. So first, let's look at this Microsoft claim that they comprehensively address any vertical foreclosure concerns. Now, one of the biggest parts of vertical foreclosure concern is that Microsoft has a very big advantage, not only with the games if they were to hypothetically make them exclusive, but also with the fact that they own Windows operating systems, so they do not have to pay a licensing fee for Windows. Now, apparently they provided NVIDIA GeForce Now with the Windows addendum, but to my knowledge, this was not given to any other cloud gaming provider. So why wasn't it provided to the others? I'm not sure if it was provided to Boosteroid, but this would also need to be provided to Amazon Luna as well. And Microsoft sees Amazon as one of its biggest competitors in the cloud space. So if they really wanted to prove that they were serious about all of this, then they would need to offer it to Amazon as well. And as far as it being legally enforceable, the CMA were very skeptical about this. What they said was, because of its complexity and because of the potential for disagreement between the cloud gaming providers and Microsoft, and because of the fact that it's a very big industry for the future of gaming, the fact that it's legally enforceable we're not really sure about, because the FTC also found potential loopholes where Microsoft could potentially pull out of the deal if they found that it wasn't beneficial to them anymore. And also the CMA was saying, it's only for 10 years, right? by the time cloud gaming really takes off in 10 years' time, well, it won't be in 10 years' time, it will be sooner than that, but cloud gaming will be huge in 10 years' time. And so that's when you really want these deals to be lasting beyond that, beyond the 10 years. So the concern regarding competition is obviously going beyond 10 years. It's forever, basically. There's no limit to the time period as to the competition concerns. And legally enforceable, CMA were concerned that it's too complex, the remedy, which means there's too much room for loopholes. This is what they said in their final report. I actually have the final report. I have a copy printed out, so I'll read from that. So what the CMA says is, let's have a look. What the CMA says is, regarding the Microsoft Cloud remedy, point number 75, we found two significant limitations in scope for the Microsoft Cloud remedy. First, it was limited to a model whereby gamers had to first acquire the right to play certain games. For example, by purchasing them on certain stores or by subscribing to them on certain services in order to stream those games on certain cloud gaming services. It did not make any provision for a different type of commercial relationship between cloud gaming providers and the game publisher, i.e. Activision. As such, it restricts the ability of cloud gaming service providers to access Activision's games through other strategies and business models, some of which we already see in the cloud gaming market, such as joint marketing arrangements, exclusive or early access to content, or multi-game subscription services. In our view, and consistent with our competitive assessment, this is a dynamic market in which there is a reasonable chance that different providers will compete using a range of different business models, and these providers would have had access to Activision's content absent the merger. Second, the Microsoft Cloud remedy applies to current and future PC and console versions of Activision games. The PC versions are those that are developed to run on a Windows OS, as well as other PC OS versions as they may be released by Microsoft during the term of the remedy. We found that absent the merger, Activision would seek to maximize the value that it can derive from these games, which would have involved considering making non-Windows PC versions of its games, as it has already done in some cases. However, after the merger, Microsoft's incentive to make these games compatible with rival OSs would be significantly lower, as this would both increase the attractiveness of rival cloud gaming services and divert demand away from Windows OS. This means that in effect, cloud gaming services wanting to stream these games would have to use or be compatible with the Windows OS versions of these games. This could exclude or restrict providers that may want to provide cloud gaming services using other operating systems such as Linux, either now or in the future. The Microsoft Cloud remedy would therefore put non-Windows-based cloud gaming service providers at a disadvantage and potentially distort the choice of OS for new entrants. Point number 78. We also found limitations in terms of the duration, monitoring, and enforcement of the proposed remedy. The fact that the remedy is only for 10 years represents a clear weakness in terms of its effectiveness as a comprehensive solution to the SLC, which is not itself time limited. Since the remedy applies only to a defined set of Activision games, which can be streamed only in a defined set of cloud gaming services, provided they are purchased in a defined set of online stores, there are significant risks of disagreement and conflict between Microsoft and cloud gaming services providers. Given the information asymmetry between Microsoft and any monitoring trustee at the CMA or the CMA, it would be difficult to monitor and enforce this remedy, even with significant information gathering. We found several additional concerns with the practicalities of implementing this remedy, which are detailed in the final report. Based on this evidence, we found that the only effective remedy to the SLC and its adverse effects was to prohibit the merger. So that's what the CMA had to say about that, the Microsoft remedies. Now, the European Commission commitments actually came after the CMA's decision was published. So they haven't really talked about the EC commitments, but they did talk about it in the meeting with Parliament, and they said they were still not satisfied that it allows Microsoft to set the terms of the industry for the next 10 years. Or rather, it allows Microsoft to set the terms of the industry because they are making all of these terms and conditions inside of their deals. And the FTC argued that we don't know, there has never been any evidence that these deals actually, there's never been any analysis that these deals actually address the concerns regarding competition, and that they don't have loopholes, that there are still concerns about these deals. And yeah, the fact that they haven't offered these deals to Amazon, to our knowledge, and FTC was trying to press Phil Spencer regarding the deals being made for PlayStation as well, PlayStation Cloud Gaming, which is very important. We don't know about that. We don't know about any future Google re-emergence. If Google were to do Stadia 2.0 with their playables thing through YouTube, then would it run on Linux, and would Microsoft allow the games to be played on Linux? And would they have any incentive to port these games over to other operating systems like PC operating systems such as Linux and macOS? Right now, Activision Blizzard has many of the games available on macOS, like for example World of Warcraft is available. Many of previous Call of Duty titles were available. But if Microsoft were to acquire Activision Blizzard, they would no longer have any incentive to port any of their games over. For example, if Blizzard were to, in the future, absent the merger, if they were to do an Overwatch port to macOS, especially given that now Mac has many development tools that make it very easy to port a game over, like the game porting toolkit that recently came out, Blizzard could make use of that in the future. But if Microsoft acquires them, then obviously that incentive is no longer there, since it would draw customers away from Windows. So going on, the EC found the transaction enhanced competition, and this is true that in theory, if Microsoft adheres to the deals, and if they last for 10 years, and during that 10-year period, yes, the short term, the deals do enhance the competition in that sphere. But then after that 10 years is expired, what happens then? Then Microsoft has a massive advantage with the gaming space, and 10 years is not a long time. Remember, in gaming, GTA 5 was released 10 years ago, and it's still a very popular game, right? So 10 years is not a very long time for these deals, really. So I'm gonna end this video here for now. I've just talked a little bit about one of the points. There's many more points to cover regarding Microsoft and their arguments. I'll be providing something more substantial. I'll be providing some evidence and more references to other regulators, as well as the remainder of Microsoft arguments. So stay tuned.